Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to do a bit of a, less intense episode. There's still going to be a few spiders, but not as many. Mostly we're going to look at some loose ends. First of all, let's visit Merchant Hag Valentia. She has a unique function wherein if you kill a certain NPC, she will sell their equipment. It's a bit unsettling to think about for too long, but it's useful. Now, I don't believe she does this for every NPC, but she does it for most of them that have equipable items. Hello, Cape Physics. That's better. Creighton's set is fairly unique. It offers decent protection for its weight, but it's basically the only set of genuine chainmail in the game. I really like the top. It's quite dashing. And it's got that nice stag pattern, too. I found that it goes quite well with the Hide Knight Iron Mask. And mostly because the top covers most things, it goes well with most other stuff too. Let's take a look at the engraved gauntlets that we got from Pate's chest. They look kind of goofy, but they also, in their own strange way, they look kind of cool. And again, they also have that sometimes you crit property. So if you're not particularly attached to any other pair of gloves, then if you have the weight, you might want to try them. Now, with this little bit of fashion souls out of the way, we're going to equip our new partisan that we bought from Ornifex and go on a little adventure. Now that we have defeated the Duke's Dear Freya, there are a couple of things that we can do here that we could not before. Our first stop is back in the misty hell of these woods, but fortunately, we don't really have to go anywhere except talk to Vengarl. You might recall that we had a bit of a run-in with his body, so we might want to go talk to him about that. Maybe make some apologies.
Back again? Well, this is a pleasant surprise. Ah, it was you who vanquished my body. It is my body, you see, and I can sense what happens to it. I do not mourn for it. Good riddance. If you wish for help, summon me. I'm rusty in battle, but will fight by your side. I cannot lie.
Now that we have put Vengarl's body to rest, he will sell a couple more things to us. His special red rust swords and his red rust shield, as well as open up the opportunity to find his summon sign in various locations throughout the game. It's sort of odd, but it does make sense. Now that his body has been put to rest, his spirit is probably more put together now, so he could project a phantom, I guess. Dark Souls metaphysics is not really my strong suit. We're going to go ahead and buy the red rust scimitar and some more great arrows because we were running low.
Farewell. May we meet again, one day soon.
Let's go ahead and try out the new sword. If I can find it. There it is. So it starts out with pretty strong stats because it is a Twinkling Titanite weapon. There's nothing particularly useful or unique about its moveset, it's just your standard curved sword. You can chain together hits really well, but because it's heavy, it does take more stamina per swing than most curved swords do. It's got a very swashbuckling look to it, though, so I certainly wouldn't blame you if you wanted to use it. Now, if you have the stats, if you dual wield and power stance the Red Rust Sword and the Red Rust Scimitar, then you'll actually get a fairly unique power stance moveset that's a lot like what the body used on us before we stabbed him in the butt a couple times. Our next destination is to go check in with Scorpion Man Tark one last time. You might not think to do this, but there's a good reason to. Now, I learned my lesson the last time we went and checked on Tark. I'm going to play this safe. And I'm going to make sure that I have a clear view of where I'm going. Mostly. This went down how quickly. Let's retreat. Okay, high ground retained. There we go. With just one of them, this fight becomes much simpler. Or at least it would if the camera would ever cooperate with me. The camera is pretty much something that at this point in my video game playing career, I have learned to simply deal with. In 3D games, there's always going to be some flaws. Unless it's like a first-person shooter or something, in which case whatever flaws are sort of designed into it. Since I'm not wearing the Cursebite ring right now, I take it a little bit more slowly here because I don't want to just go ahead and lose a stage of hollowing for no reason. We need to equip the Ring of Whispers one last time. Endure that weird moaning noise. And go ahead and talk to Tark.
What skill? You've defeated my master. But our master never dies, and he changes form so that he may seethe for all eternity. Brave human, you have yet to face your greatest perils. Take these. May joy await you at the end of your travels.
Well, thank you very much, Tark. He's been really good to us. For no real reason, really. He's just a nice guy. Good fortune to you, too. The ring he gave us, the second dragon ring, is incredibly useful and incredibly powerful. In general ring usefulness, it is only second to the, surprise, surprise, third dragon ring, which we'll get later. This ring increases health, stamina, equip load, sorry. Had a bit of a brain fart. All useful things to have, especially with just one ring. Now, as for what he said, that's a bit interesting. I would not have pegged a giant mindless spider to be a being capable of creating interesting chimera hybrids like Tark. So what could he mean? He said that his master never dies, but only changes form, so that he may seethe for all eternity. It's an interesting choice of words. It's possible that at one point, the being that created Tark and his friends was not Freya at all. After all, if he can change forms, then it sort of stands to reason that he wasn't always a spider. Maybe it had something to do with that dragon corpse. Mysteries abound. Our last detour here is back in Brightstone Cove. I went ahead and took the liberty of getting this lizard off camera to spare you any more hijinks. I'm mostly just showing off the fact that this is an alternate way to get down. the same rate of getting to your destination as the bonfire is, but given that not everybody is going to find the bonfire, it's a very helpful shortcut for those who didn't hit the third one. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the partisan now because the extra reach is helpful for dealing with the man spiders. The partisan is basically the basic spear that you can buy from Lenegrast, except more so. It's got a bit more range to it, and it's got much better dexterity scaling. At least so it says. I did some comparisons in my own time, and I think like the difference is a point or so. Still, it's nice to have that shiny S on your status screen. Our destination is back in the Spider Chapel, but I hate getting snuck up from behind, so I'm going to be thorough and take these guys out too. There are significantly fewer petrified bodies around here, so I'm going to assume I either did this at a time where not many people were playing, or people have simply wised up in the interim. Basilisks are a bit of a one-trick pony. Once you know what they do, it's pretty easy to actually just avoid it. If you look up here, you can see pretty much the whole area of Brightstone Cove. As irritating as the design can be for this area, it's pretty cool visually. Now, how did that statue get all the way over there? I guess he got snuck up on. Always be careful. Be cautious on your travels. Now, as I mentioned before, spiders are extremely weak to fire, as are most things that have a crispy outer shell. One of these days I'm going to get one of these guys to die on the spikes, but no such luck today. It's sort of a pointless trap, to be honest, since there's such an easy way out. Fire Orb, the improved fireball, will absolutely demolish these guys. Now, of course, we have enough enemies that we're sort of running out of uses, and we also run into a weakness of the fireball line. It sort of has an arc to it, like it's an actual ball instead of just a soul bolt. So instead of petering out after some distance, it will simply fall and hit the ground like a normal thrown thing. Something to keep in mind, Pyromancy isn't really intended for super long range. Uh-oh. Okay, so fighting all of these guys at once is tricky, but it's not impossible. Especially if you have a partisan. Oh, hello. Spiders have an odd habit of dropping weapons that they really have no business carrying around. For instance, I'm pretty sure the Mastodon Greatsword is probably heavier than those 5 spiders combined. Either way, it's always worthwhile to look at what they drop. Same for these guys. Prism stones aren't particularly useful, but it's good to have them in case you find a drop you're just not quite sure about. This is our ultimate destination. We got this key from who was presumably the Duke back in his quarters, and this setup looks a little familiar. Opening that door will cause a flood of spiders. The game is nice in that it sort of sends them at you gradually at first, but the more time passes, the more will fall down. And now, a word about Fire Whip. It's a very powerful spell, don't get me wrong. It's just that it's not nearly as good against crowds of enemies as you might think it is. You would think that such a wide cone with such sustained damage would just decimate groups. But the thing of it is, it won't penetrate through the enemy. So basically you'll hit one, maybe two guys, and then everybody behind them will be perfectly fine. So for AoE, you're better off with Firestorm, or even Fire Orb actually has some pretty good splash damage. Our reward for this trap is pretty valuable. Black Knight Ultra Greatsword, Great Fireball, which is like Fire Orb, but even more so, and a Fire Seed. Absolutely worth coming back here if you have any interest in Pyromancy, which honestly most characters probably should. It's a very, very strong generalist spell tree. It's also fairly inexpensive. Unlike in Dark Souls 1, where further upgrades of your Pyromancy Flame would start to cost an arm and a leg, the fact that you simply trade in Fire Seeds and a handful of souls at most to upgrade it means that it's a very affordable option if you're diligent in collecting the seeds.
I'm always here, so come and see me when you're in town.
That does it for almost everything. There is one more secret in Brightstone Cove that will probably have to get its own video. Until we solve that mystery, let's take a break, enjoy the view, and be thankful we're done with spiders for a while.